What if I told you a jury of 12 could stand up to the entire government, proclaiming, no, this law is wrong? Let's take a look at the historical precedent for and prominent cases of jury nullification, a highly contested but incredibly powerful tool granted to ordinary people that serves as the ultimate check against governmental power. The Magna Carta, a royal charter of rights established by King John of England in the year 1215, first established the usage of juries for criminal proceedings. It states, "No free man shall be captured, and or imprisoned, or deceased of his freehold, and or of his liberties, or of his free customs, or be outlawed, or exiled, or in any way destroyed, nor will we proceed against him by force or proceed against him by arms, but by the lawful judgment of his peers, or by the law of the land." For a trivial offense, a free man shall be fined only in proportion to the degree of his offense, and for a serious offense corresponding, but not so heavily as to deprive him of his livelihood. In the same way, a merchant shall be spared his merchandise, and a husbandman the implements of his husbandry, if they fall upon the mercy of a royal court. None of these fines shall be imposed except by the assessment on oath of reputable men of the neighborhood. Although this established the existence of a jury, these juries did not operate with the same freedoms and rules that modern juries have. Upon inception, these juries were extremely biased and never ruled against the will of the crown. This is achieved through the writs of attaint, which were laws established to formalize the punishments that can be given to any member of a jury which had given a false verdict during a trial. The punishments included, but were not limited to, that their wives and children should be thrown out of doors, that their houses should be razed and thrown down, that they should lose their right to give evidence or serve on a jury and become forever infamous. Now, obviously, these severe punishments serve to strong-arm any jury. These laws reduced in severity over time, but the independence of juries was established in Bushell's case in 1670, which established that a jury could not be punished simply on account of the verdict it returned, but that individual jurors could still be punished if it could be proven that they had acted improperly. Moving over to the United States of America, the Founding Fathers enshrined this right to a trial by jury in the Constitution, stating in the Sixth Amendment, "In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have assistance of counsel for his defense." This amendment largely defined the methodology of criminal proceedings in the United States of America. It is important to recognize that the Founding Fathers always intended for jury nullification to exist as a power afforded to the jury. John Adams, a Founding Father and the second President of the United States of America, stated, "It is not only the juror's right, but his duty to find the verdict according to his own best understanding, judgment, and conscience, though in direct opposition to the instruction of the court." Although this perspective on the role of juries has been contested over the years, the right to jury independence has largely been upheld. In the Supreme Court case of Duncan v. Louisiana, it is stated, "A right to jury trial is granted to criminal defendants in order to prevent oppression by the government." This statement further supports the notion that juries are not only intended to look at the facts, but also the laws, in order to maintain checks and balances against the government. As we have established, modern juries follow the precedent set in Bushell's case. A juror cannot be punished for the verdict they pass. This principle, combined with a double jeopardy clause which states, "Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb," creates a powerful tool for jurors. Since jurors cannot be punished for their verdict, and the government cannot retry a not guilty verdict, a juror may vote not guilty even when evidence clearly proves guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. This decision is commonly known as jury nullification, and it serves as one of the most powerful tools of resistance available to citizens of the United States. Through it, ordinary people can override their government's laws in favor of their own conscience. Throughout history, this tool has been used for both noble and nefarious causes. Let's examine some of these instances. The Camden 28 were a group of Catholic activists who strongly opposed the Vietnam War, particularly the Selective Service System, a database of American citizens eligible for military draft. In August 1971, the Camden 28 broke into the draft board in Camden, New Jersey, to destroy thousands of draft records as an act of protest against the Vietnam War. The FBI closely monitored this act of civil disobedience, having been tipped off by an informant from within the Camden 28. After their arrest, the Camden 28 were offered a plea deal. All felony charges would be dropped in exchange for each member accepting a single misdemeanor charge, a lenient offer given the case's high profile. However, the group chose to fight the felony charges in court, despite facing potential sentences of up to 40 years in prison each. In a written statement, they said, "We are 28 men and women who, together with other resistors across the country, are trying with our lives to say no to the madness we see perpetrated by our government in the name of the American people. The madness of our Vietnam policy, of the arms race, of our neglected cities and inhuman prison. We do not believe that it is criminal to destroy pieces of paper which are used to bind men to involuntary servitude, would train these men to kill, would send them to possibly die in an unjust, immoral, and illegal war. We stand for life and freedom and the building of communities of true friendship. We will continue to speak out and act for peace and justice, knowing that our spirit of resistance cannot be jailed or broken." During the trial, the judge initially instructed the jury that they lacked the power to nullify and must convict based on the overwhelming evidence against the Camden 28. The defense counsel challenged this, arguing that the jury did possess nullification power. The judge ultimately agreed, and in revised instructions to the jury stated, "If you find that the overreaching participation by government agents or informers in the activities as you have heard them was so fundamentally unfair to be offensive to the basic standards of decency, and shocking to the universal sense of justice, then you may acquit any defendant to whom this defense applies." After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned a not guilty verdict for all of the Camden 28, a watershed moment in the anti-war activism surrounding the Vietnam War. This case stands as a powerful, positive example of jury nullification, where public conscience successfully overrode governmental laws. Supreme Court Justice William Brennan later declared that the Camden 28 case was one of the greatest trials of the 20th century, underscoring its profound historical and judicial significance. Emmett Till was an African-American boy born in Chicago, Illinois in 1941. At 14 years old, Till was on summer vacation visiting relatives near Money, Mississippi. Coming from Illinois in the north to Mississippi in the deep south, Till was unaware of the strict racial codes and prejudices that dictated expected behavior for Black people at the time. Till allegedly approached Caroline Bryant, a white, married 21-year-old woman, and flirted with her. For this perceived slight, Caroline Bryant's husband, Roy Bryant, and her brother-in-law, J.W. Milam, abducted, brutally tortured, and killed Till. The flirting allegation was questioned at the time and has since been revealed as a fabrication by Caroline Bryant. Before discussing the court case, it is crucial to note that there was no doubt about the identity of Emmett Till's murderers, Roy Bryant, Caroline Bryant, and J.W. Milam. In an interview just 4 months after the trial, J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant openly confessed, with Milam stating, "Me and my folks fought for this country, and we got some rights. I stood there in that shed and listened to that throw that poison at me, and I just made up my mind. Chicago boy, I said. I'm tired of 'em sending your kind down here to stir up trouble. God damn you, I'm going to make an example of you, just so everybody can know how me and my folks stand." Given the gravity of this case, it bears emphasizing that the true perpetrators were indeed the ones who stood trial. The trial began in September 1955. A widespread conspiracy emerged to obscure the fact through racially charged testimonies suggesting the body was too old to be Till's. The sheriff even falsely testified that the body was white. After this extensive misconduct, the case concluded with the judge instructing the jury on 3 possible outcomes for capital murder in Mississippi: life imprisonment, death penalty, or acquittal. The jury deliberated for just 67 minutes before returning, with one juror remarking, "If we hadn't stopped to drink pop, it wouldn't have taken that long." The jury returned a not guilty verdict, acquitting J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant despite clear evidence of their guilt. Several jurors later admitted in interviews that they knew Milam and Bryant had murdered Till, but believed that white men should not face imprisonment or death for killing a Black man. It's important to remember that fear of tyranny extends beyond monarchs and governments. it often manifests most oppressively as the tyranny of the majority. In John Stuart Mill's book On Liberty, he states, "Society can and does execute its own mandates, and if it issues wrong mandates instead of right, or any mandates at all in things in which it ought not to meddle, it practices a social tyranny more formidable than many kinds of political oppression, since, though not usually upheld by such extreme penalties, it leaves fewer means of escape, penetrating much more deeply into the details of life, and enslaving the soul itself." This concern, which Mill shared with America's founding fathers, is amplified by the absolute power that jury nullification grants to 12 ordinary people. With no legal remedy available once nullification occurs, we must recognize the serious harm it can cause when misused. Given that jury nullification fundamentally challenges our judicial system, it should remain as a last resort. It can be a powerful tool for social change, as demonstrated by cases like the Camden 28 and the nullification of the Fugitive Slave Act before the Civil War. These examples show how collective moral conscience can drive immediate change when there is widespread agreement that a law is unjust. Beyond civil rights cases, jury nullification has served to challenge governmental overreach during Prohibition, oppose harsh drug laws, and protect whistleblowers. While it is undoubtedly a powerful tool for driving positive change, its potential for harm cannot be overstated. Emmett Till is only one of many victims of the Jim Crow era South. Beyond such racially motivated nullification, this tool can lead to jury anarchy when overused. Without reasonable expectations for courts to uphold or enforce laws, criminality may increase and a nation's legal conscience can become clouded. Criminal cases risk being dominated by emotional arguments rather than facts. The O.J. Simpson murder trial, one of the most televised cases in history, exemplifies this problem, as social commentary about racial tensions overshadowed the evidence and contributed to an acquittal. As we move forward, it is obvious to see many cases where widespread knowledge of the right to nullify can play a crucial role. Luigi Mangione, the United Healthcare CEO killer, can stand to not face any punishment due to the notoriety of his case, as well as the generally neutral/positive stance people hold about his actions. With AP News reporting, about 7 in 10 adults say that denials for healthcare coverage by insurance companies or the profits made by health insurance companies also bear at least a moderate amount of responsibility for Thompson's death. Younger Americans are particularly likely to see the murder as a result of a confluence of forces rather than just one person's actions. With the right set of jurors, Mangione could conceivably be acquitted due to public perception of healthcare CEOs. While I won't judge whether this would be a valid use of jury nullification, it would set a dangerous precedent. The suggestion that someone could walk free simply by targeting a widely disliked person and securing a sympathetic jury could have far-reaching consequences for our legal system. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something new from this essay. I will leave you with a quote from Alexis de Tocqueville. "Men are not corrupted by the exercise of power or debased by the habit of obedience, but by the exercise of a power which they believe to be illegal and by obedience to a rule which they consider to be usurped and oppressive."